It's another interesting episode of Labor Lens, where we bring to you update information in the world of work and pay. I am Sharon Ijason. On this week's episode of the program, we have interesting news stories for you. Also, the Medical and Health Workers Union held its 10th Delegate Conference here in Abuja. Join me.
Is against sexual violence. It's against gender-based violence. We say no to harassment.
Sexual harassment, discrimination and all forms of violence against male and female workers are a common feature in the work environment. The story of this lady, a civil servant whose identity will not be disclosed here, is a case in point. Her efforts to claim her late father's pension in 2003 opened her eyes to sexual harassment in the workplace. She would not succumb to threats and had to take her case to higher authorities, and in the end, she was vindicated. She was lucky, but many others in her shoes have not been as favored, and that is why she has joined the advocacy group for the elimination of all forms of harassment in offices.
Harassed me because he wanted me to sleep with him before he could release my father's pension to him, which at the end of the day I refused to do, and followed it up by writing, copying the relevant agencies. At the end of the day, my father's pension was released to him, and I am glad I was able to do that. But what I feel is pity. I'm sympathetic to the plight of women who do not know how to go about some of these things.
Although Nigeria lacks requisite statistics, the increasing rate of these vices has become a matter of public concern. Cases such as those involving Rachel Njeri of Makerere University, Monica Osagi of Obafemi Awolowo University, and renowned feminist writer Chimamanda Adichie have in no small measure contributed to the growing scandal. Some Nigerians speak on what brings about sexual harassment.
I believe that such kind of act is being done by people that are probably they are being removed by a particular influence of something.
You don't wear short skirt, mini skirt, leggings to office and tell your director not to look, to close his eye. Do you want him to fall?
If a woman dresses properly, a man, before a man will sexually harass that lady, if that man has a conscience, he will think twice.
Nigeria has enabling laws kicking against all forms of gender-based violence. These women believe plans to adopt the ILO convention in June this year will go a long way to check the ugly development. They believe also that what is termed indecent dressing is no excuse for harassment.
We are doing this to prepare Nigerians so that all we wait for is the convention. Immediately we come back because we are already on it. We expect that Nigeria will adopt it.
Men walk about, sometimes they are hot and they decide to walk only with their singlets and their boxers, and women don't harass them because of that. So if a woman decides to wear spaghetti because she's feeling hot or she's going to a function that needs her to wear spaghetti, you don't go and harass her.
And ahead of the ILO adoption of its convention on putting a stop to gender-based violence at workplaces, the Nigerian government says it is binding to its ratification and domestication.
This ministry will do everything humanly possible to give, to throw their weight and support to the convention, to the advocacy you are doing in respect of safe world workplace.
The advocacy rallies in commemoration of this year's International Women's Day, celebrated every 8th of March. The group is sensitizing men and women on the need to shun violence against both genders. They are also advocating the elimination of every form of violence against the worker, either at home, as house helps, drivers or cooks, or in the offices. In February, the committee headed by Johnson Agbaima from Edo State held its maiden meeting with the Pension Commission. Pensions Acting Director General Aisha Dahir Umar at the time told the lawmakers that Nigeria's pension stood at 8.63 trillion naira with an average monthly contribution of 29.15 billion naira as of December 2018. The legislators said they need to probe further, but are unhappy that pension fund administrators have repeatedly shunned their invitations.
To our greatest surprise and dismay, we also received another letter writing to us that the pension operators will not be able to attend the investigative hearing. We believe this is a plot to derail the will of progress of this ad hoc committee.
The second meeting is threatened with a letter received by the committee less than 24 hours to the public hearing that PFAs won't make it. An angry committee chairman says the PFAs made of banks will be compelled to attend its meeting.
I have to seek approval to issue bench warrants so that they can be compelled to come to appear before this honorable ad hoc committee.
The ad hoc panel is mandated to investigate the activities of PENCOM from 2017 and alleged violation of the act establishing it.
What I will expect in the next 4 years from the health workers and the union generally is, one, collaboration and synergy, togetherness, where all of them who are in the health sector will see themselves as one indivisible body to actualize for the various categories of health workers, to achieve a purpose where health services can actually be accessed by the ordinary citizens in Nigeria, where people will begin to come because of the knowledge in the health services in Nigeria. People begin to come from other countries to visit Nigeria for healthcare service delivery. These are my expectations, and I will expect that government too will take the demand of the health workers much more serious, to a level where they will see that if they don't implement the demand of the health workers, it's like creating problem within the health sector, where you begin to see health workers leaving the services in Nigeria, creating room for brain drain in this country, leaving the services in Nigeria for other countries. And that is what we'll expect federal government to do for them, so that they don't create gap for brain drain at all. And I will expect the health workers to be focused and dedicated to their service, to the people, so that they can see the best out of them at all costs.
My expectations of the union in the next 4 years is that medical and health has been a union that has standard. And from all indications, you can see that even from this edifice and all the good things the medical and health have put on ground, our expectation is that in the coming next 4 years, that the School of Health we are building will take off, and the 150 beddings hospital, that's the specialist hospital, will still take off. And as regards the welfare of the union or the workers in general, the health workers in general, the medical and health has been on ground fighting for the rights of these workers, because the health is very important in any economy. So for the fact that we have a very strong and able president, he has been doing all these things so that the health workers cannot be marginalized in Nigeria. When you look at the trends of things that are happening, you can see that the health workers are being marginalized in every aspect of it. But with the president on ground, we have been able to, for some time now, there has been a lot of struggles. But we believe God that in no distant time, that struggle will come to our own as a welcome development in our favor too. So, in general, the medical and health has been a union to reckon with.
The last 4 years were appreciated by our members, even though the federal government was not fair on health workers in the past 4 years. Do you understand? But the efforts we put in trying to bring to the fore issues that concern their welfare Even when federal government never gave us much attention, the members appreciated that. So maybe from now, maybe the starting point will be, how far shall we continue to pressurize those issues with federal government that affect the welfare of our members, particularly the core issue of the review of the consolidated health salary structure, which government promised us in 2017, to be exact, 30th September 2017, when we signed an agreement for its implementation within the next 5 weeks. Since then, 5 weeks have turned to 2018 and now 2019. But even with that, the members still have faith in us that we should be able to find a way out, to be able to find a solution through government.
Actually, the workers have not been finding it easy. They have not been finding it funny with the current management of FMC over there. Why I'm saying that is because we've been receiving series of punitive treatments from them. And it's like such workers have been regarded as castaways. Sometimes when we come to office, we don't feel happy because of the treatments we receive from the management. And having been following the national leadership of the union, and having been following the trend of the unionism, we resorted to be watching them because we are peace-loving workers.
On the profile interview segment this week, I will be speaking with Comrade Josiah Biobolemoye, the president of the Medical and Health Workers Union. He was re-elected to serve the union for the next 4 years. He tells me his plans for the union and what his expectations are from the federal government. Join me. It's good to have you on the program.
It's a pleasure to have you again.
Now, a lot has happened in the sector in the last 4 years. I would like you to share your experience and in summary tell us what you've been able to achieve and what some of your challenges or the struggle that you're still fighting for are.
Well, talking about experience is a lot, negative, positive, lots. We're talking about achievements and challenges. Just like I said, negative, positive, they also build into the fray of the experience that I will share. If you ask me to share a specific experience, I would want to say the most harrowing experience that I've seen in the last 4 years is the high level of insincerity, the high level of dishonesty of the Federal Ministry of Health, coupled with the high interest in promoting corruption by the Federal Ministry of Health. That is what I can tell you. Whereas, another area I can tell you about is, whereas the Federal Ministry of Health is fixed on creating a turbulent environment in the health system without minding the negative impact on the Nigerian people, knowing fully well that it is only the public health institutions that can give affordable health to the Nigerian poor people. They do not mind the consequences, but all they want is deliberately starve institutions, the health institutions, necessary funds, promote corruption by punishing people who blow the whistles, patriotic health workers, patriotic Nigerians, patriotic members of my own organization that wants to help the government fight corruption in the health system. They suppress them. They punish them. And I think these are the things I would say are things that I've experienced. If you talk about positivity, maybe, it should be safe for me to say none, because nothing has been given to us willingly. When you see a situation where people in the same industry, there are some professionals who make the medical practitioners who make just less than 5% overall. Talking about less than 5% overall is at the federal level, state level, and local level. They make less than 5% of the healthcare deliverers. But they get everything, whether legitimate or illegitimate. They get it. The deceit and lies to Nigerians is one of the big things that I experienced over these 4 years from the Federal Ministry of Health. And I just hope that the abnormality, which is appointing people of one profession in a multi-dimensional industry to man the top ruling class of that ministry, that all-important ministry, I think is an experience I wouldn't want to see in the next 4 years. And I pray Mr. President will correct himself by not doing that.
Okay, looking at the current situation we find ourselves, looking at the fact that between the workers and the managers of the health workers, it's not been so much of an harmonious relationship, if there's any word like that. Moving forward, what are your expectations in terms of how the healthcare sector in Nigeria should be managed to ensure that there's a better working relationship between health workers and its employers?
Thank you. You used a word that for some time was very key to the results that we were turning out in the health sector. Prior to 1985, there was that word, harmony. Harmony existed amongst the health workers because there was fair treatment. And why was there fair treatment? Because hospitals were headed by hospital administrators, hospital secretaries, and in some cases, hospital governors, who are non-health professionals. But they are professionals in their own right as administrators, hospital administrators and all that. So they were able to stand neutral to harness the various specialties and professional callings, to use them, mold them together for a purpose. And what is that? Patience. A patient-centered purpose. That's why we were getting the results. That's why prior to 1985, our hospitals, some of our hospitals were rated among the 5 best hospitals in the Commonwealth. That's why our hospitals were receiving patients from outside Nigeria. The tourism was inwards, unlike today that it is outwards. So you really got it right. Harmony. Harmony. Certainly, bias is so high in the health system today, compounded by the, I believe, ill-informed appointment made by the president and commander-in-chief the last 4 years. Where, like I told you, the Minister of Health was medical doctor, Minister of State, medical doctor, and then Permanent Secretary was also a medical doctor until after a while that the Permanent Secretary was removed. But again, the minister, importantly again, the Minister of Labor was also a medical doctor. So that compounded the whole thing more. Because in the past, where there is so much quarrel within the health system between the managers and the managed, when the matter is taken to the Federal Ministry of Labor, there is a neutral arbiter there. Therefore, he listens just like the hospital administrators would have done. He listens there and then gets things right. So we were having better relationship, sour relationship within, but corrected sometimes outside.
But many people believe that the health workers are actually competing with the medical doctor. And I know that the Medical and Health Workers Union and JOASU has actually debunked this many times. And they have often said that it is about equity and not equality. What's your take on this?
We have never talked about equality. We have always talked about equity, fairness. That's our watchwords. We've not said, look, pay us like a doctor. Let me repeat myself. A doctor, a first degree holding doctor comes out. After 8 years, that is 6 years academics, 1 year as house officer, then 1 year as NYSC, 8 years. He's placed on grade level 12. Grade level 12. We've not said we should be placed on grade level 12. Some of us are also trained for 8 years, like the optometrist. Trained for 8 years. The lab scientist, the pharmacist, okay, trained for 7 years. Today, even the nurses, trained for 7 years. Okay, 5 years academics, 1 year internship, and 1 year NYC. But because of 1 year difference, okay, the doctor is placed on grade level 12, and the highest, even the optometrist who is trained for 8 years like the doctors, is placed on grade level 10, which is a 3 years difference. So the doctor gets 3 years benefit for a 1 year difference in training period. He is placed on 12, and the nurse is placed on 8. That is 9 years difference. 9 years difference for a training period differential of 1 year, of 2 years.
So what should your members be expecting from you in the next few years?
Well, in the next few years, first and foremost, I feel that the president will not allow himself to make that mistake again. So he would not appoint a minister as a doctor, and then a minister of state as a doctor. Certainly, I think if he wants harmony in the health system, he should bring in the others also as one of the ministers. And the gravest thing that he would do, if he does, that will no longer allow peace in the health system again, is if he makes the mistake of appointing a medical doctor as Minister of Labor. Because people, professions that have ego and self-centeredness, should not be put in a ministry to administer a ministry where you need multiple, interests, where you have multiple interests. That should not be done. And I want to give an example to Mr. President straight today. If he wants to know, if people have claimed that unless you are a medical personnel or you're a professional, you shouldn't be a minister, and if you are done, if he does that, it will wreck the health system, that is a blatant lie. I want to tell you this. Since 1985, after headship of hospitals was taken away from hospital administrators and doctors became heads of hospitals, the indices have been southward. They've been nosediving until the only time they stabilized and started facing up again, traveling north, was when Professor Eitayo Lambo was appointed Minister of Health. Eitayo Lambo was never, or is never, a medical doctor. But his time was the most peaceful health era and harmonious time. After him, we started nosediving again. And I want to give you another example at the state level. In Bayelsa State, the most respected Commissioner of Health to this day, the most successful Commissioner of Health to this day, the Commissioner of Health that harmonized the health workers to this day is Bishop Degi Eremie. Recently, he was elected a senator. Yeah. If the president wants to know, I think they are the same party, so he can even call him and then affirm what I'm saying or confirm what I'm saying. Bishop Eremie is a non-health personnel, but he became commissioner. At that time, doctors said, hell will fall. When the acting governor then, Goodluck Jonathan was the acting governor and they appointed him, they said hell will fall. Then I was a union leader at the state level and I said, that hell will not fall. Because it is not, there is no law that bars the governor from appointing a non-health personnel as a commissioner of health.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember, labor creates wealth.